Hello, and welcome to Teachers College's 13th Annual Academic Festival, Advancing Social Justice in a Post-Pandemic World. The issue of social justice informs virtually every Teachers College event, but has never been more relevant than it is right now. The COVID-19 pandemic has intensified long-standing inequities in our society, highlighting systemic racism nationwide. And our poorest and most marginalized populations continue to be hardest hit by COVID because they suffer from the highest rates of hypertension, diabetes, and other conditions that increase risk of death from COVID, while at the same time they have the least access to quality health care. They often work in frontline essential occupations that put them at greater risk of infection. They have less access to information technology and thus to educational resources and quality health information. These are huge issues, but the pandemic has presented us with the opportunity to replace outmoded and unjust systems with new ones that are more beneficial for all. So, our festival theme is about how TC and its extended community are working together to create a smarter, healthier, and more equitable world. To cite just a few examples. Ending racism begins with education. But even as our education system serves an increasingly diverse population, it reflects and reinforces white perspectives, biases, and norms. But recently, TC's Black Education Research Collective was one of several partnering organizations that received a major grant from the New York City Council to help develop an interdisciplinary K-12 Black Studies curriculum for the city's public schools. The funding follows a research report led by Berk's director, Sonia Douglas Horsford, professor of education leadership, which measured the impact of the pandemic and systemic racism on Black students. Earlier today, TC's provost, Stephanie Rowley, led a panel discussion about this exciting work with Professor Horsford and other partners on the project. The speakers included Cant Fellow alumnus David Banks, president and CEO of the Eagle Academy Foundation, and the United Way of New York City representative. If you missed this session, remember, all sessions are recorded for you to view at your convenience. One of the pandemic's worst fallouts has been its impact on education, particularly on children lacking access to technology. TC alumnus Karim Abunaga founded the public benefit corporation Practice Makes Perfect to help prevent children from regressing academically during summer and school vacations. Of course, during the pandemic, millions of children were penalized by time away from live classrooms or school entirely. Together with Carmine Gabaldi, president of the TC Alumni Association and professor of social entrepreneurship at St. John's University, Karim will discuss education entrepreneurship and his summer learning camp model. Racism also manifests itself through workplace discrimination. Even as organizations spend vast sums to promote diversity through education and awareness, unwritten codes and deeply held stereotypes still influence hiring and promotion and undermine the confidence and performance of many employees. In her 2019 book, Diversity, Inc., The Failed Promise of a Billion-Dollar Business, TC alumna Pamela Newkirk, professor of journalism at New York University, concludes that racial diversity will not be ushered in by pledges, slogans, or well-compensated czars. Rather, it will only be achieved once white America is weaned of a prevailing narrative of racial preeminence, a belief system as intoxicating and addictive and ultimately destructive as any opiate. Dr. Newkirk will speak tomorrow with Elisa Perry, TC Professor of Psychology and Education, whose research explores discrimination against older job applicants. The pandemic has also caused increased food insecurity for millions of families and children. Early on, Black and Hispanic households with children were reporting food insecurity rates of more than 37%, twice that of white households with children. In New York City, TC alumna Kate McKenzie, director of the Mayor's Office of Food Policy, helped guide the successful use of schools as food distribution centers for all New Yorkers in need, and led the creation and launch of the city's first 10-year food policy plan, released in February 2021. Alumna Ali Hard, a staff member for the House Committee on Education and Labor, has worked extensively on anti-hunger and school meal legislation to expand access to free, nourishing school meals. Ali and Kate will speak tomorrow with Pamela Cook, TC's Mary Schwartz Rose Associate Professor of Nutrition Education, who has conducted leading analyses of pandemic food release efforts. And of course, this evening, the college will present its 2021 Distinguished Alumni and Early Career Awards, an Alumni Award for Outstanding Service. Our recipients' accomplishments range from empowerment and health promotion in underserved communities to improving online learning to advancing fields such as feminist theory, cultural studies, and Islamic studies. All of this important work and more emanates from Teachers College and its people. Yet we can accomplish even greater things if we truly unite our talent and resources. The pandemic continues to teach us that we are stronger together. It's under that banner that we are strengthening TC on several fronts so that we can continue to maximize our student experience and expand our impact through our research, digital innovation, and efforts to promote racial equality. As with Academic Festival itself, our aim is to ensure that TC's work continues to speak directly to the most pressing concerns of the times we live in. I look forward to sharing updates on our strategic efforts at our upcoming State of the College meeting, and hope you will join us there. As you enjoy Academic Festival, I hope you will think about your own connection to Teachers College and how you too can join us in making TC an even stronger force for good. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you soon. Now it is my pleasure to call on Rosella Garcia, Senior Director of Alumni Relations, to help us honor this year's Distinguished Alumni Award winners. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. For those of you watching at home, you'll have a chance to hear more from President Bailey as Academic Festival continues. Tomorrow, he'll be interviewing TC alum Elvin Freitas, producer of the Ed.D Experience podcast at 3 p.m. If you haven't heard the Ed.D podcast episode that featured President Bailey, you can find it linked on our website here. And I encourage you to do so before tomorrow's behind-the-scenes talkback with Elvin. We have also made a wealth of other on-demand content available to you in addition to our scheduled sessions, including a recording of the workshop on public service loan forgiveness. And now it is my honor to kick off this year's Alumni Awards ceremony. Each year, the Alumni Association recognizes the achievements of their peers. The Early Career Award recognizes a rising star within 10 years of graduation. The Alumni Award for Outstanding Service honors volunteer leaders who have given significant service to the college. And the Distinguished Alumni Award is bestowed upon TC alumni who have made an indelible impact through their work. I encourage you all to think about the extraordinary TC alumni that you know who are going above and beyond in their efforts to create a smarter, healthier, more equitable world. We look forward to receiving your future nominations to help us in identifying the next group of alumni who will join these distinguished ranks. It will not be an easy feat to match the caliber of alumni being honored today, but we know that so many TC alumni dedicate their lives to advancing health, wellness, education, and social justice. To submit a nomination, visit our website. I would also like to thank our awards committee, which has the difficult task of reviewing the nominations and selecting the award recipients whom we honor each year. This is a role that they take very seriously, and as you're about to see for yourself, They have done an exceptional job once again this year. I invite you to learn more about the incredible achievements of this outstanding cohort of alumni by reading their citations of achievement, which you can find on the awards ceremony session webpage. And now, without further ado, I am humbled to introduce you to this year's alumni honorees. Nimrod Aloni is an international leader in the field of humanistic education. He teaches at Kibbutzim College of Education in Tel Aviv. He also holds a UNESCO chair in humanistic education and heads the Institute for Progressive Education. Donna Bacon is a change agent, an advocate whose work focuses on the education, empowerment, and health of underserved communities. She is currently a professor and department chairperson at Nassau Community College and is the founding executive director of Mid-Nassau Lend a Helping Hand. Noel Tichy is an esteemed management consultant, educator, and author. He is the founding editor-in-chief of Human Resource Management Journal and has been a professor of management and organizations at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan for more than 40 years. Chin-Chung Tsai is a groundbreaking scholar in the field of online learning and serves as the Dean of the School of Learning Informatics at National Taiwan Normal University and is National Chairperson in Taiwan. Ruth Gotian is a global expert in leadership development, mentoring, and extreme high achievers. She is currently the Chief Learning Officer and an Assistant Professor of Education in Anesthesiology and former Assistant Dean of Mentoring and Executive Director of the Mentoring Academy at Weill Cornell Medicine. Shenila Khoja-Moolji works at the intersections of gender and Islamic studies. She is an Assistant Professor of Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies at Bowdoin College and is an award-winning author. Jeffrey Putman is a member of the Teachers College Student Affairs Advisory Group. He is past president of the Alumni Association, a role that was the culmination of his 12 years of service to the Alumni Council. And professionally, he serves as the vice president for academic and student affairs at SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University. Ladies and gentlemen, here are the 2021 Alumni Award recipients.
So I'm a troublemaker from day one. That's my job. It's all intelligent, practical solutions to racism and poverty. From some kid from Buffalo, New York.
And I was a late bloomer to come to TC, but I always knew that it was going to be in my future. I always knew. I just didn't know when. I didn't know how. But I knew it was going to happen. And here we are.
I start all of my workshops around the world, whoever I'm with, whether it's with kids or executives, with what I call your emotional journey line. Smiley face up at the top, frown at the bottom, and then birth to today, and draw, it looks like a cardiogram, draw the ups and downs of your life. And in that journey line, really where your values get set, where your beliefs are, and it's usually in the tough times that people learn or don't. And so my journey is started very serendipitously. I was born in Buffalo, New York, and I was adopted at the age of, I think, 6 days. Took the long trip from Buffalo all the way over to Meriden, Connecticut, and that was the home I knew growing up. And so I knew both my sister and I, we were told that we were adopted. None of this, don't tell the kids. So it was just part of who I was.
I'm a motherless daughter. My mom passed away when my twin sister and I were almost 5 years old. And my twin sister and I went to live with grandparents, aunts, and uncles, and they all passed away by the time we were 16. We were wound up in the care of family members who weren't really nurturing or protective at that time. It was a very difficult road, and we were pushed out of the house. I went to college at 17 without parental or monetary support.
So I'm originally from Pakistan, and my parents were influenced by our imam, our spiritual leader, the Aga Khan's guidance on quality education. So they pieced together their savings and sent me to the United States so I could pursue international baccalaureate. And I like to think about that moment as the critical juncture in my career, because frankly, it's due to their commitment to education and the guidance of our spiritual leader that I'm here.
My first step in the education career was when I was around 20 years old, and I worked with young prisoners in a rehabilitation and educational program, living in a prison for 6 months as a staff member. I lived with prisoners the ages between 14 to 18, and I taught them civics and sports and lots of many things. This was real lived experience, and amazing. Then I went for 2 years to work with street gangs in a very impoverished neighborhood with youngsters ages 13 to 25, again helping them to live kind of normative life.
I have my undergraduate study in National Taiwan Normal University, and my major is in physics. And then after that, I got a teacher certificate, and I became a science teacher in Taiwan for 1 year. And after 1 year of teaching, and I think I'm quite interested in science education, so I went to Harvard University for my master degree study, and then I went to Teachers College at Columbia University for my doctoral study.
So I am actually a third generation Columbia student. Both of my grandparents, they wanted to go to medical school, but at that time it was not open to Jewish people. And at the end they became pharmacists, but Columbia had a pharmacy school at that time. And then my father went to Columbia, and then he also went to Teachers College for his master's degree.
Well, I'm actually a Teachers College legacy. My father went to Teachers College, got 2 master's degrees from TC back in the 1960s. My mother also worked at Teachers College. She was assistant to the registrar in the 1960s and worked there up until the week before I was born in late 1974. So I have a very close connection to the college. And when I applied for graduate school, it certainly wasn't the only institution I applied to, but it was my preferred choice of where I wanted to go because of the connection I had with the institution. My parents also met at the college, actually in the registrar's office, and got married. So there's a very close and very special connection to TC for me and for my family.
I got married and went with my wife to TC dorms. There we lived for 5 years, bringing up 2 children. And there I had such amazing teachers: Maxine Green, Lawrence Kremin, Jonas Soldis, Robert McClintock. As Teachers College was much more educational, with the soul was there, which I couldn't find at Harvard. Reading works of Maxine Green, reading works of Robbie McClintock, it was much more intellectual wise rather than just scholarly wise. And I am a person who engaged in education, heart and mind together, and political and social involved. And I found the staff, the teachers, the professor who later became my mentors, so much more inspiring.
As I was researching and thinking about grad school, I was interested in pursuing interdisciplinary work, and TC offered multiple departments that encouraged that kind of thinking. And I started my master's program where I encountered Professor Manisha Bajaj and Professor Nancy Lesko, and also Professor Laila Abdulagut at Ararat. And so their classes were extremely influential, and they continue to inform my work in terms of producing analysis that crosses the disciplinary boundaries.
And that's when I met Dr. Wallace. And I was so impressed with her and enthralled with her. And she was humorous and intelligent and witty and smart and kind. And I said, this is where I need to be. This is where I need to be. So that's what drew me to TC. And I knew I made the right decision. Actually, at Columbia University and working on my dissertation, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was 33 years old. Dr. Barbara Wallace. And I said to her, I had breast cancer. It was stage 3. My mom passed away of breast cancer when she was in her 30s. And Dr. Wallace, my earth angel, said to me, I said, I have to stop. I can't do this. She said, yes, you can. Do what you have to do. I will support you. I will do what you need. I will help you. During chemotherapy, I continued to write my dissertation, and I graduated, I believe, May 15th from TC, and I finished chemo May 14th. I graduated one day after I finished chemotherapy, and it was the happiest day of my life. The birth of my daughter is probably number 1, but that was number 2 for sure.
Teachers College is the most famous. I think it's the longest history of School of Education in the world. I think everyone knows that. So that's a dream school for me. Also, a lot of famous scholars in education, they come from Teachers College, or they are connected with Teachers College. For example, John Dewey. I would like to express my appreciation to my advisor, Professor O. Roger Anderson in Science Education Department. He gave me a lot of freedom.
I wanted to really learn it from the source. And if I was going to learn it from the source, it had to be TC. It just had to be. I was 43 when I decided to go back to school to get my doctorate, and I did it while working full-time, while raising my family of 3 sons, having elder care for my parents who live in another country. But at this stage in my life, if I was going to study something, I wanted to learn it from the people who came up with the theories.
Sometimes scholarship kills one's inner fire. So it's being authentic, having my personal voice, but at the same time committed to high quality in accordance with cultural standards, academic standards. And in that sense, I felt that they were hugging and challenging me all the time.
It's about empowering people, working with them. And a lot of that I learned from both Morton Deutsch and Charles Gotian at the time was a sociologist. Once a week, if you were part of Mort's study group of maybe 6 or 7 or 8 doctoral students, you met at his house one evening and had cocoa or donuts or something and talked about stuff. But it was always at their home. That taught me a lot. I've done that, replicated that opens you up. You're building a community. So I've learned a lot of these ways. How do we create what I call virtuous teaching cycles? The virtuous part is teach, learn, teach, learn. So whoever the teacher is, they need to be learning. And that can happen in nursery school, first grade, second grade. But you got to create those honest feedback loops. But I always want to leave people with some practical tools that they can use to navigate their own lives and make a difference in the world.
TC changed everything. And it came from having the most hectic day. And I would just walk up to TC, see that sign, see the blue flags, walk up the stairs, and I would just have this sense of calm over me. Because I knew that I was walking in for a class, but when I walk out, I would be better than when I walked in. There is nothing passive about a TC education. You have to be all in. If you're expecting to go there and take notes, this is not the right school. You are part of the learning process, actively part of the learning process, and that's why you remember it. But learning how to do that and the adult learning and building leaders, if there was ever a time to reimagine how we build leaders, how we reimagine leadership, this is the time. And thankfully, I'm trained to do it.
One of the best things that Teachers College does is that it integrates, one of my former faculty used to call it practice to theory to practice, right? You start from a guise of how you do your work. Then you go through the theories about how things are supposed to work, and then you reapply that back to the practice that you're doing in your work. And I think that type of methodology really helps you to absorb the how you do your work into your work.
As a Teachers College graduate, I already know how to conduct, how to do a good piece of research, no matter that's a qualitative research or quantitative research or mid-major research. That's helped my career a lot.
And I'm very interested in my field of study is to figure out what helps students succeed, what helps them persist through college and graduate. And I currently work as the Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs at SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University in Brooklyn, New York.
I'm currently an assistant professor in the Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies program at Bowdoin College, and I research in the areas of gender and Islamic studies, focusing in particular on women and youth. I enjoy research and teaching, and so as a professor at Bowdoin, I'm able to do this work with students who are simultaneously ambitious and grounded, and so that feels really rewarding to me.
I study extreme high achievers, and that started with my dissertation work where I studied the most successful physician scientists of our generation. And since then, I have gone on to explore that even further with astronauts and Fortune 500 CEOs and Olympic champions. And that led to my book, The Success Factor. That led to me becoming a dean at an Ivy League medical school, an assistant dean for mentoring, and also a chief learning officer. So I am practicing everything that I have studied at TC and putting it into action every single day. I'm following the path of what's important. And right now, what I feel is important is creating more high achievers, because high achievers produce 400% more than the average employee. So if I can help produce more high achievers and teach people how to do that and inspire people to do that, then I think I've done my part.
I soon became a UNESCO chair in Humanistic Education. I established the Institute for Progressive Education. I published many books. I couldn't stand the idea of being just a scholar without an audience. It's about changing the world, so there will be greater equity, greater equal opportunity, humanization to all those that have been oppressed by the hegemonic group. So I said, wow, there is something here, and my book and research is going to be about that. And I think that my contribution, and later on I was asked also to write to the Encyclopedia of Education about that. So I categorize humanistic education into kind of an integrative theory. As long as you hold in top priority the universal values of mankind, of human dignity and equality, you're a humanist. The book that I wrote, it's called Enhancing Humanity, and Maxine Greene wrote the preface, and the compliment she was giving that I was not presenting any dogmatic or a closed definition of humanism, but it's an ongoing dialogical and dialectic conception of humanism. I found the voice, I found the language, I found the middle ground between the philosophical and the common in many, many ways.
My first job is in Taiwan. That's in National Chiao Tung University. And the National Chiao Tung University is quite famous in computer science. So that's I have a good opportunity to have some research collaboration with some computer scientists. So that's opened one of my research area that's about educational technology or online learning or online teaching. I have a chance to shift my research area from science education to education technology. In 2017, I back to my alma mater, the National Taiwan Normal University, I initiate an undergraduate program about learning sciences. And that's a very interdisciplinary program. And we try to integrate a lot of researchers in the field of education, psychology, computer science, library sciences, and also from technology and also from science education. So that's a totally new interdisciplinary program. So right now I'm the head of the program and also the kind of the dean of one school here.
Even though I end up at a business school, my primary work is, although there's plenty of business to go with it, has been with healthcare, education, social work, and that never leaves me. I have a center at the University of Michigan named for the founder of Focus Hope in Inner City Detroit, Eleanor Jusitis, which was started after the Detroit riots. I think the other big initiative I have going is working with veterans. And I got involved with veterans coming back on campus way back when after Vietnam, and realized that they were lost coming for an MBA after 4 tours in Iraq. So I started working with those guys. I mean, I get choked up when I think about it. I mean, these guys, unbelievable stuff they deal with. So that's probably one of the most rewarding stuff I do. I've got veterans programs that I do in partnership with Columbia, with Chicago, with Northwestern, with UCLA.
One of my biggest issues was the fact that going through chemotherapy, I wasn't married, I didn't have parental support, and I was working full time, but I did not have, I ran through my savings, I ran through my sick time, and I would go to these breast cancer organizations that I had walked for miles and miles and miles for. None of the money went to the women who were living with breast cancer. So I said to myself, if I survive this, I'm going to change that. So when I went into remission, I started an organization called Mid-Nassau Lend a Helping Hand. And that program provides financial assistance to women and men who are living with and dealing with a breast cancer diagnosis. That was, again, part of my effort to change things and leave them a little better than how I found them. The most rewarding part of my life's work is the women that I serve. It's seeing a woman who I worked with grow leaps and bounds and change the course of her life and become a different person. And every interaction I have, I'll always say this. Sometimes I'll sit with a person, a client, a student, someone in one of my groups, and I say, what if the one reason I'm on this earth is to have this interaction? I always feel like I'm part of a bigger thing. And I always think about the losses I had. I know it's not about me, although they were so painful. I know that none of this is about me. What if just one interaction I have at one time changes the course of everything? And every person I encounter, I feel that way. So I give it my all.
The other thing that I think is incredibly important that Teachers College does is that it doesn't just talk the talk about issues of social justice. It really does walk that walk. It really is an institution that speaks to the right kind of way of doing business, to the right way of doing things, and integrates that into the education that it's providing students. Many colleges and universities talk about social justice in terms of, they say the right things, but Teachers College actually does those things and helps teach others how to do those things. And I think that that's incredibly important and has been a major point and a real success for me in terms of being able to integrate that in the work that I do every day.
My sense of justice comes from the very feeling of solidarity with others. The challenge is, I think, is to go and work on yourself to see that the other is a full human being. And once you recognize that the other is a full human IQ, you insist that every human being would get the rights and the opportunities to flourish as a full human being.
It is the small, consistent daily action that we do. It's not a banner. It's not a holiday. It's not, it is action. It is doing something every single day to make things better. So everything that we do has to move our community forward with equity, with access for people who may not have had the opportunity to achieve that for whatever reason. I say service is the price we pay to be on earth, and I think that is what social justice is.
It's core. I mean, it is that. That's it. The motto of Focus Hope is intelligent, practical solutions to racism and poverty. That's it. That's what we got to do.
Creating a world of multiplicities where multiple ways of living, belonging, and knowing are possible and can thrive. And so in my work, I've highlighted the interplay of gender and power, focusing specifically on how Muslim women and young people experience this world. So social justice for me is then just another way of practicing Islam. It is not outside my spiritual practice as a Shia Muslim, but integral to it.
To me, I can't solve all of the world's problems. And that's a core tenet of the Jewish faith. We can't solve all of the world's problems, nor can I ignore them. I have to do my part. And my part is to give a voice and a spotlight to those who are overlooked, those who are not discussed, those who don't feel that they have a platform or a spotlight on them. And if I can give them the spotlight, if I can help them amplify their voice, then I think I've done my part.
For me, social justice is try to help everyone have fair or equal opportunity. For example, for employment, for healthcare, and also for education or for learning opportunities. And take my field as an example. One of my major fields that's about online learning. And everyone knows that in the last 2 years, we are experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic. And a lot of learners or teachers, they already changed their teaching or learning from face-to-face to online learning or online teaching. So then in last 2 years, in academics, we have some new term called Zoom fatigue, video conferencing fatigue. And I would say, maybe some online fatigue. Well, that's too much. And every day, they do the same thing. But please do not forget that there is a group of learners in the world. They did not have the access to online learning. And they did not experience any online learning fatigue. They are online learning refugees.
I think it's incredibly important to give back to your alma mater in a way that helps the future generation, the future students, helps you connect with fellow alumni, and in a way that helps those people move forward in their careers as well. It's just so incredibly impressive, so incredibly humbling. I often don't feel like I belong in the same group of such distinguished fellow honorees today, and helping all of our students reach those incredibly lofty goals that they have for themselves is just incredibly rewarding to me. And that's really the crux of why I do what I do, to help give back to the college.
And I'm so happy, so very, very happy to get this award from TC, because TC was my first, even though my bachelor degree I did in Jerusalem, but at TC I got education. TC in many ways gave me everything that I know. in terms of sensitivities, sensibilities, wisdom, and so on. And I love New York, I love TC, and I'm so grateful for TC for giving me this award.
The idea that anyone would think that the things that I do out of passion and out of love for my community and love for the women I work with would be something to be honored, is amazing to me. I am so humbled by this. I feel so extremely happy that that I was chosen for this award from my alma mater at that, from a school that I didn't even think I could get into at one time, or that I would be able to afford, or that I would be able to even complete because of my health diagnosis. The fact that this full circle moment has happened is amazing to me, and I'm going to use this to show my students. I tell my story to them. I tell them anything is possible. You just have to want it enough. You just have to seek out your earth angels. You just have to, move forward and get your education. That is the one thing that I know changed me and saved my life.
I am really grateful, and I'm also really delighted, especially because one of my favorite professors, Dr. Manisha Bajaj, nominated me for the award, and so it's really special because of that as well. And it's also a sweet reunion with TC.
Right after TC was over, that led to Renaissance Weekend, and then before you know it, that led to me being named to the Thinkers 50 radar list. And after that, I was shortlisted for a Thinkers 50 radar award. And then after that, semi-finalist for Forbes 50 over 50. And then I found out about this award from TC. I mean, all of this happened. All of this happened because I went to TC. There's no question in my mind.
That's a big deal. No, it means a tremendous amount. Just, because it's the roots of a lot of this. I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't started there. So I'm thrilled and honored, to my core, really. The greatest joy I have is doing that kind of stuff. And if I can help open someone's eyes or give them an idea that helps them on their journey, and I owe my career to Teachers College.
I think more than 25 years ago, and I was a student at Teachers College, and almost every day, I went through the main hall, and whenever I went through the main hall, I will see a lot of big names on the wall of honor, and I cannot imagine that there is one day my name will put on the wall. I cannot imagine there is one day the dreams come true. I truly appreciate this award, and it means a lot to me. And I think that's not only a symbolic meaning for recognizing my current achievement, but also imposing some expectation for my future. So I think I will tell myself, I need to become a better teacher, a better researcher, and a better educator.
I just wish I could walk down those halls over and over and over again, because that is definitely my happy place. I'm always TC happy.
I want to live a life in which I can be proud of.